The day Claire Thompson found out she was pregnant, she threw a divorce petition in my face. Ethan, let's end this. We're not right for each other. I was thrown out of the Thompson family home like a stray dog, buried in debt overnight. The collectors she sent after me forced me to sell a kidney, then part of my liver. I bled out on a dirty table. Meanwhile, Claire and her true love were newlyweds, whispering sweet nothings to each other. I've been reborn, sent back to the third year of my secret marriage to Claire. This time, I'm flipping the script. One of the loan sharks hired a back-alley butcher. They carved me up without anesthesia, taking a kidney and a piece of my liver. I passed out from blood loss. When I woke up, I wasn't on my way to the afterlife. I was in the master bedroom of the house I shared with Claire. I realized I was back, reborn. It had to be the third year of our secret marriage. Today was the day she had her annual physical. In my first life, she came home today from that same appointment, glowing, holding the positive pregnancy test. Before I even had a chance to feel happy, she pulled a divorce petition from her designer handbag and, in front of her entire family, slapped it across my face. I'm pregnant, she'd said. Ethan, let's get a divorce. We're just not a good match. That night, I was kicked out of the Thompson estate. I went from being the family's golden boy's son-in-law to a man drowning in debt, with a target on his back. 3 years of a hidden marriage, and my reward was to be carved up for parts by thugs. Meanwhile, Claire and the one that got away, Julian Vance, had a spectacular wedding. But I'm back. This time, I won't let Claire walk all over me. Everything I lost, everything they took, I'm going to get it all back, piece by piece. I pushed the thoughts away, stretching my arms. My whole body ached. The butler came in with a cup of herbal tea, his face beaming. Mr. Hayes, congratulations. Mrs. Thompson is pregnant. You should come downstairs. For 3 years as the Thompsons' son-in-law, I was treated with the utmost respect. The day we got our marriage license, my father-in-law invested $10 million in my biotech startup. He even gave us the most expensive mansion in Boston suburbs as a wedding gift. My parents, a middle-class couple from Ohio, begged me not to marry into the family. Not like this. But I was dead set on Claire. For 3 years, we were the perfect couple, loving and in sync. Claire said she wanted a child. So for 3 years, I didn't touch a drop of alcohol. I was in bed by 10, up at dawn, hitting the gym. Also, she could have a healthy baby. I pushed the bitter memories down, finished the tea, and padded downstairs in my slippers. The entire Thompson clan was in the living room, gathered around Claire, laughing and chatting. When she saw me, her gaze turned to ice. You're so weak. You get caught in a little rain, and you come down with a fever. It had rained last night when I went to pick her up from her studio. I only had one umbrella and held it over her the whole way. The wind and my soaked clothes had me running a fever by midnight. Before, she would have cooed, Honey, do you feel awful? Should we call the doctor? But now, she couldn't stand the sight of me. I changed the subject. The butler said you're pregnant? A flicker of annoyance crossed her face as she rested a hand on her stomach. Yes, about a month along. I sat down next to her, saying nothing. She glanced at me, finally breaking the silence. Ethan, let's get a divorce. It was happening just like before. I was expecting it. This time, there was no heartbreak. Is it because of Julian Vance? I asked, deliberately mentioning his name. She denied it instantly. No, we just don't have anything in common. She wasn't wrong. Our worlds were apples and oranges. She was a performance artist. I was in biotech and medical research. Fine, I said. I respect your decision. Let's talk about the settlement. Claire stared at me, completely stunned. She probably thought my pride would keep me from asking for a dime. She was wrong. After the way her family betrayed me in my last life, any love I had for her was dead and buried. Claire watched me for a long moment, her expression turning to disappointment. You've changed, Ethan. You were never like this before. She had no idea. Claire and I were both top students at Boston University. We met at the senior gala. She was on stage, the lead dancer. I was at the podium, giving the valedictorian speech. My biotech company was brand new, just a registration number and a plan. In the audience that night was the real estate magnate of Boston, Claire's father. He saw potential in my company, praised me for being a National Merit Scholar, for my brains and my looks. He wanted to invest. With her father's encouragement, Claire and I started seeing each other more and more. My parents were salaried workers. Compared to the Thompson empire, we weren't even in the same universe. When Claire showed interest, I was flattered but also completely out of my depth. My parents were dead set against me marrying into the Thompson family, but Claire insisted that love could conquer all. So I did it. The Thompsons handed over luxury cars and mansions without a second thought. Though our marriage was a secret, everyone in the business world knew I was living the high life. They all called me Mr. Thompson's brilliant son-in-law, and the family kept pressing us to have a baby. It wasn't until they set me up and threw me out like last week's garbage that I understood. The whole thing, the entire 3 years, was an elaborate scheme to use me for my genes to produce an heir. Everything I ever did to make Claire happy now seemed like a pathetic joke. The genuine love I offered her couldn't compare to a single crumb of manufactured romance from Julian Vance. I didn't argue with her. I admitted it. I had changed. I was no longer blinded by love. I was facing reality. I read every line of the divorce agreement, checking for the traps I knew they'd set. This part, I said, pointing, we need to add a clause. The $10 million was a venture capital investment. Projects have risks. Even if my company fails, you can't come after me for that money. Claire watched me mark up the document, her focus intense. It was just like when I used to present the company's financial reports to her. This is wrong, too. The house and cars you were gifted for the wedding are in your name. All marital assets need to be split. And here, I continued, regarding visitation rights if the child is born safely, I think we should go through the courts. It's fairer to both of us that way. I made a lot of changes. Claire didn't object. After we signed the new, reprinted copies, I felt a sense of relief. She was just as eager as I was to get it over with. 3 years of secret marriage, and now I was free. We had barely left the lawyer's office before Claire started planning her wedding to Julian Vance. The union of a real estate tycoon's daughter and the heir to a prestigious literary family was the talk of Boston. One, an elegant dancer, the other, a trending celebrity. A perfect match of looks and talent. Behind Claire's back, Julian Vance sent me an invitation. He wanted me to attend their wedding and offer a public blessing. I had nothing to hide. Why wouldn't I go? On the wedding day, I showed up in a tailored suit, looking my best. I handed my carefully prepared cash gift to the person at the gift table. Unfolding the bills, the total was $66.60. Among the gifts worth tens of thousands, it was both conspicuous and pathetic. The person taking notes asked, "And your name is? Are you a friend of the bride or the groom?" I cleared my throat and raised my voice. "Oh, just write Ethan Hayes. I'm the bride's ex-husband and the groom's old classmate from college." The hall went silent. Then the whispers started. Since Julian thought I wouldn't have the guts to show up, I decided to give them something to be upset about. "What's going on?" I never heard the Thompsons had a son-in-law. A live-in one at that. I heard Miss Thompson just used him for his genes. Wonder if it's true. No way. Why would the Thompsons need him for that? Because he's handsome. Could be. But more likely they wanted a premium genetic specimen. Should keep it down. What if Julian Vance hears you? If they used a surrogate father, does that mean they thought Julian wasn't smart enough or good-looking enough? Let's just watch. The gossip rippled through the guests. Everyone's curiosity piqued. The bride and groom stood frozen in place, their faces burning with embarrassment. I went to the restroom to splash some water on my face. Claire followed me in, furious. "Ethan, what do you think you're doing?" I looked at my reflection as I dried my hands. "Just offering my sincerest congratulations," I said calmly. "The $66.60 was a compliment to you both." Her face was crimson with rage. She stepped closer, hissing, "Ethan, I know you're bitter about the divorce, but don't worry. The Thompsons won't treat you unfairly. The money will be in your account in a few days." "Great. I'll be waiting." I turned to leave, but she spoke again. "Ethan, I know you were good to me, but Julian is the love of my life. You'll find your own happiness, too." I scoffed internally. Such a sanctimonious hypocrite. Use you, then tell you that you deserve better. My happiness died on that operating table in my last life. Now all I want is to hold on to what is rightfully mine. When Julian saw Claire emerge from the restroom behind me, his face darkened. He grabbed her arm, making her wince. "Julian, what are you doing? You're hurting me." "Claire, you promised you wouldn't see him again. This is our wedding. What am I supposed to think with everyone watching?" I walked away quickly, not wanting to watch the train wreck. A moment later, I heard the sharp crack of a slap. Claire's famous temper must have flared. Julian probably got what he deserved. Before the wedding was even over, I got a call from my company's CFO. Ethan, the Thompson family just pulled their $10 million investment. Just as I expected. A perfect repeat. They ditched me without a second thought. But this time I was ready. I wouldn't be crushed by their sudden withdrawal. Ethan, are you listening? The Thompsons pulled out, and it sounds like a few other investors are getting ready to follow suit. What do we do? I'm on my way back now. Don't worry about the capital. I have another plan. 4. Before the Thompsons pulled their funding, I had already secured $10 million in an angel investment round, so their withdrawal didn't leave as big a hole as they'd hoped. Right now, we were heading into winter flu season. Targeted medicine was key. The demand for viral test kits was enormous, and prices were high. The first to market would see the biggest returns. My angel investors saw this potential. That, combined with our company's already solid product performance and some strong recommendations through my university network, kept us moving forward steadily. There are no secrets in this town. When Claire transferred the $20 million divorce settlement to my personal account, the story of how the Thompsons used me for my genes and then cast me aside blew up, trending #1 on Twitter. All press is good press. I never imagined this scandal would actually bring a wave of support for my company. Some people online envied me for getting a $20 million payout for 3 years of service. Others lamented that even a top scholar could be crushed by the wealthy elite. As the man at the center of it all, I found I didn't much care what outsiders thought. At the end of the day, success is its own justification. After discussing it with my partners, we decided to ride the wave and offer public shares. A surprising number of online followers who believed in our vision invested. The first financial crisis after the Thompsons pulled out was averted. From here on out, our market share would determine our company's future and its survival. I poured every ounce of my energy into product development, completely forgetting to keep tabs on Claire. It wasn't until she called me that I learned the Thompson family was caught in a storm of negative press. Their stock had plummeted. Desperate, they wanted me to hold a joint press conference with them to clear the air. I refused flat out. Claire tried to use the baby as leverage. Ethan, we had more than 3 years together. Are you just going to walk away? I don't believe your feelings for me and our child were fake. The Thompsons had been desperate for a boy. At 3 months, they did genetic testing and an ultrasound double insurance. Only after they confirmed it was a boy did they begin their scorched earth campaign to remove me from any position of power in their companies. When I didn't answer, Claire got desperate. Ethan, if you agree to clarify the reason for our divorce, I can make a personal investment in your company. My company was in its growth phase. Who says no to money? At the press conference, the reporter's questions were blunt. Ms. Thompson, is it true you and Mr. Hayes had a contract marriage? Claire nudged my arm. I put on a fake smile. That's just a rumor. Ms. Thompson and I fell in love and got married. We've now decided to divorce peacefully due to differing career paths and personal differences. There's nothing more to it. The media wasn't satisfied. What about the allegations that your family used Mr. Hayes to produce an heir? The Thompson family has no need for such measures, I said. And Ms. Thompson and I now share a child. I hope you'll all show some decency for his sake. Even though my answers were vague and dodged the main points, it was enough to put the chapter of the Thompsons' betrayal behind us, at least in the public eye. As it ended, Julian Vance was waiting with the car, tenderly draping a coat over Claire's shoulders. Claire's smile was radiant. In our 3 years of marriage, she never smiled at me like that. I'd always thought she was just a naturally reserved, cool beauty. It turns out she just didn't love me. It's hilarious that it took me dying once to see it. I feel bad for her, having to fake it for so many years. Seeing me, Julia made a point to walk over. Ethan, know your place. Stay away from Claire. I never thought the grandson of Boston's most celebrated scholar would need to climb into a rich woman's bed to get ahead. How are you any different from me? At least Claire and I have a child together. My last sentence hit a nerve. I normally wouldn't stoop to such cheap shots, but he came looking for it. I wasn't about to just take it. Claire's sweet voice called out, Julian, let's go. It had been 6 months since the divorce. To be honest, I wasn't completely over her. After all, for 3 years, my feelings were real. My work was progressing smoothly. That winter, as the holidays approached, the COVID-19 virus exploded. Suddenly, The pandemic was all anyone could talk about. The city went into lockdown. Julian Vance's career took a massive hit. He was stuck at home, doing Instagram lives. For a celebrity who thrived on public appearances, being out of sight was a death sentence for his relevance. After marrying Claire, Julian moved into the Thompson mansion, with all his expenses covered by her family. Mr. Thompson was admitted to the ICU with white lung from the virus, and control of the family business fell almost entirely to Claire. That's when Julian saw his chance, convincing Claire to let him get involved in the company's operations. To be fair, many companies were struggling during the pandemic. Julian knew nothing about business, but because he knew how to keep Claire happy, the other board members could only grumble in private. During this time, my company's R&D team seized the opportunity. We ramped up production of test kits and ECMO machines, quickly becoming a leading enterprise in Boston. The next time Claire contacted me, it was because her father's condition was critical. She wanted to buy the best ECMO machine available to keep him alive. I'm a businessman. I don't turn away customers. When I saw her, she was crying, a heartbreaking sight. She was nearly full-term now, running around for her father with a huge belly, while her company's profits were in freefall. It was clear she was overwhelmed. "Ethan," she began, "I heard from some of the old-timers at the company that you have the most advanced ECMO machines. I want to buy one for my father's private use." I sipped my tea without saying a word. As much as Claire had wronged me, her father had given my company crucial support in its early days. And honestly, a lot of my current success came from the connections I made using the title of Thompson son-in-law. By any measure, I should help. Seeing my silence, Claire grew anxious. "I know I was wrong to kick you out, but this is a matter of life and death. Can you please help me?" So now she understood what life and death meant. In my last life, she was the one who sent the violent debt collectors that killed me. She didn't know that, of course. This life, it hadn't happened yet. The memory still made my chest ache with a phantom pain. Sitting before me was the woman I once loved more than anything, who, with her new lover, had conspired to throw me, the father of her child, out on the street. "Claire, an ECMO machine isn't a silver bullet. If your father's condition is too severe, it might not do any good. I was just being honest. Even with the machine, weaning him off, it would be another battle. The Thompsons had all the money in the world, but sometimes you can't buy a life." Thinking I was refusing to cooperate, Claire actually knelt down to beg me. Seeing her filial piety, I took pity on her. When the newest batch of machines was ready, I had one sent to her first. I intended to visit her father to see how he was doing, but when I arrived at the Thompson mansion, I saw Julian Vance punching and kicking a very pregnant Claire. An attack like that could kill her or the baby. I rushed forward, tore Julian off her, and kicked him to the ground. Julian glared at me from the floor. "Ethan Hayes, who do you think you are interfering? Don't forget, you were thrown out of this family." He was right. I had no standing to protect her. Claire, seeing this, used a railing to pull herself up, wiping a smear of blood from the corner of her mouth. "You're a monster, Julian. I hope you rot in jail." Less than half an hour later, the police took Julian away. I went with the ambulance that took Claire to the hospital. In a hospital bed, Claire's face was terrifyingly pale. "Sir, the patient's pregnancy is now unstable. She needs complete bed rest to prevent premature labor. You should prepare for the possibility of an early delivery." The doctor's words sent a cold sweat down my back. Claire and I were officially nothing to each other, but the baby was still the link between us. Claire was weak, clinging to my hand. "Ethan, I was wrong. I gave up someone as good as you for him. Julian is nothing but a wolf in sheep's clothing." From the sound of it, their marriage had not been going well. It wasn't until she told me the whole story that I realized what a perfectly matched pair of vipers they were. I was just glad to be free of them. After Julian got involved in the Thompson companies, he repeatedly made disastrous decisions, causing massive losses. The shareholders finally banded together to kick him out. Claire was at her wit's end, caught between her dying father and the wolf she'd let into her house. She had Julian investigated and discovered he was colluding with outsiders to short the company's stock while embezzling corporate funds into offshore accounts. Several of the Thompson subsidiaries were on the verge of bankruptcy. When Claire confronted him with the evidence and threatened legal action, he exploded, which led to the scene I had walked in on. Claire had been her father's pampered princess her whole life. She had never endured such hardship. When the police came to the hospital to take her statement, her anger was still raw. She refused any kind of settlement, insisting on pressing charges to send Julian to prison. I sighed to myself. People always think the grass is greener on the other side, but every path has its own problems. Once you get what you thought you always wanted, it often turns out to be just ordinary. 7 Claire went into labor on a cold day in late January. Julian was out on bail, still under investigation. He refused to sign the consent form for her epidural. The Thompsons' butler was frantic and called me. No matter what Claire had done, the child she was giving birth to was mine. I drove to the hospital and got into another fight with Julian right outside her room. The police took us both to the station. I missed the birth of my son. The butler called to tell me it was a boy. The Thompson family had its heir. They named him Leo Thompson. After Mr. Thompson recovered, he threw a huge party and signed over one of the best commercial buildings in downtown Boston to the baby. When the Thompsons found out I'd fought with Julian over Claire's epidural, they started warming up to me again. One afternoon, after I closed the deal, Claire came to find me, holding the baby. The pandemic was starting to ease. The lockdown had just been lifted, but the air was still cold. The baby was pink and chubby. He had my eyes, but the rest of his features were all Claire. My heart softened looking at him. Claire was in the middle of a messy divorce battle with Julian. Sending him to prison wasn't proving to be simple. The stress was etched on her face. The confident, radiant woman who had divorced me was gone. "Ethan, do you have a minute? We could get some lunch." I was about to say no, but the baby was so adorable I agreed. Seeing how much I liked the baby, Claire tested the waters. "Ethan, the custody of our son. Do you want it?" I didn't understand. She went through a 3-year charade of a marriage and endured a painful birth just to have this child. Why would she give up custody? I thought the Thompson family must be in some new trouble. "What's wrong?" I asked. She shook her head. "Nothing. It's just, I feel bad that he doesn't have a father." Before I could process her words, she added, "My dad's idea is for us to get back together, to give Leo a complete family." So that was the real agenda. I handed the baby to the nanny, sat up straight, and looked at Claire. She was undeniably beautiful, with a graceful figure, but her thinking was flawed. I, Ethan Hayes, am not a piece of trash on the sidewalk she can pick up and throw away whenever she pleases. "Claire, your divorce isn't even finalized, and you're already trying to get back with your ex-husband. You really don't waste any time." She heard the sarcasm but didn't get angry. Instead, she smiled. "I know your business is doing very well now. The man you've become is finally a match for me." I knew it. The woman was heartless. If I were still a penniless nobody, she would never have come back to me, even after things ended with Julian. I stood up. "Maybe I'm good enough for you now. But what makes you think I still want you?" Claire played her trump card. "He could take your last name. We can call him Leo Hayes." Leo Thompson, Leo Hayes, what was the difference? He would only ever be a constant reminder of the fact that, to have him, Claire played me for 3 years before casting me aside. "Not necessary. You can call him whatever you want." As I walked away, Claire shouted after me, "You're so cruel, Ethan." The public drama between Claire and Julian became the biggest scandal in Boston. On social media, people were calling me a stand-up guy for how cleanly I had walked away. Goes to show you never know. Ethan Hayes is a real man. He left without any drama. Julian Vance is just a pretty face. He can't build something from nothing like Ethan did. So glad I invested in the right guy. Ethan's company stock is still climbing, while the Thompson Group is tanking. The public was enjoying the show. I was busy building my empire with my partners. Sometimes opportunity is fleeting. If you don't grab it, it's gone forever. Our test kits and ECMO machines were now being exported internationally. I had no time or energy to dwell on being kicked out by the Thompsons. On a flight back from a business trip, I ran into Julian Vance. He was now a disgraced celebrity, banned from performing in the U.S. He had to travel to smaller, less developed countries for gigs to maintain some level of exposure. Honestly, with all the travel during the pandemic, there was no way his performance fees were covering his expenses. No matter how successful you get, Ethan, you'll always be the man who married into the Thompson family. So what? Unsatisfied, he tried to provoke me further. "She only had a kid with you. Do you really think she loves you?" She was cheating on you with me before you were even divorced. That was new information, but dwelling on it now was pointless. I kept my eyes on my newspaper. And what if she did love you? I replied calmly. She still moved heaven and earth to send you to prison. At least I'm free, aren't I? Julian looked like he'd been slapped. He started breathing heavily and, losing all composure, began cursing me out on the plane. He really brought it on himself. We could have had a quiet flight, but he had to stir up trouble. Who could he blame but himself? As soon as we deplaned, Julian was met by police officers and taken into custody. It looked like Claire finally had all the evidence she needed to have him arrested and charged. That was Claire, decisive and ruthless. Just like when she divorced me, no hesitation. As they led him away, Julian shot me a look full of resentment, as if I were the one who had ruined his perfect love story. He was pathetic, but he was also despicable. He had brought all of this on himself. He should have known from the start. Being a stepfather isn't easy. Claire valued that child above all else. When he dared to raise a hand to her while she was pregnant, he sealed his fate. Prison was probably the most merciful outcome she was willing to grant. But Julian would never understand that. He would always believe this was all my revenge for him breaking us up. Let him think whatever he wants. I don't have time for his games. In the end, Julian Vance went to prison. In the public battle between them, Claire was the decisive winner. The Vance family spent a fortune but couldn't get him out. No one ever imagined that Claire's grand, all-consuming love affair would end in such a messy, public disgrace. For their son's 100-day celebration, the Thompsons decided to throw a massive party. Mr. Thompson had the invitation delivered to my office personally. The look on the receptionist's face as she handed it to me was priceless. Within an hour, everyone in the office knew. The rumor mill started churning. This was the Thompson family's signal that they wanted a reconciliation. Claire, who had deleted my number, sent me a new contact request. Ethan, it's Leo's 100-day party. I hope you can come. I wasn't naive enough to think she genuinely wanted me back, but it turned out I was wrong. At the party, I was holding Leo, playing with him, when Mr. Thompson came over with a glass of champagne. Ethan, my judgment of character is still sharp. You're one of Boston's top entrepreneurs now. Our Claire is a lucky woman. A man as successful and devoted as you is a rare find these days. Many of the guests overheard him and shot knowing, amused glances our way. Claire was wearing a custom-made white gown, dripping with jewels, the center of attention. Ethan, look how much he looks like you. I didn't reply. She continued, cooing at the baby. Leo, when you grow up, you'll be as handsome and smart as your daddy, won't you? She looked at me meaningfully. I feigned ignorance. Let's hope Leo doesn't end up like me. Imagine if he marries into a rich family and gets thrown out on the street. His mother would be heartbroken, right? An unnatural smile flickered across Claire's face. She pulled me aside to a quiet corner. Ethan, you were so good to me before. I believe you love me. You're being so cold to me now on purpose, aren't you? You want me to come back to you, don't you? The pride Claire once had was completely gone, shattered by her failed marriage to Julian. Claire, you're overthinking it. I'm not here to win you back. Like you said, this is all for the child. I stood to leave, but she grabbed my sleeve. Ethan, you're still mad at me, aren't you? I did think about trying to make a real life with you. But you treated me like an obligation, so cold and distant. No passion. Julian, he whispered sweet things. He knew how to make me feel special. Anyone would have chosen him. She was right. Compared to Julian, I was boring. Julian was handsome, fun, and knew how to charm women. What young woman, even one as spoiled as Claire, wouldn't fall for that? And me? I was quiet by nature and knew nothing about her world of performance art. All I knew was how to manage the family's business interests. I thought taking care of her, handling every detail of her life, was how you showed love. I thought that would be enough to sustain our marriage. I completely missed the fact that what Claire needed most was emotional validation and romance. Two things I never gave her. It wasn't until this very moment that I realized my devotion had been entirely misplaced from the start. What I gave was never what she wanted. Understanding that brought a sense of peace. Her voice was almost pleading. Ethan, can't we just let the past be the past? Let's start over together. For Leo. No, what you want I still can't give you. Leaving the Thompson estate, I felt a sudden, profound sense of release. There was no going back for Claire and me. Even with a child between us, we were destined to walk separate paths. 10 for the next year and a half, Claire called me constantly. I never answered. After the pandemic subsided, the real estate market, which had been in a bubble, completely collapsed. The Thompson family was not the powerhouse it once was. Their empire was built on real estate. Now, with the credit lines frozen and property values plummeting, their foreclosed properties were being auctioned off everywhere. I heard through the grapevine that Claire had left the country and was working as a dancer in a small theater in Los Angeles. The rumor was that she had been blacklisted for unpaid debts in the U.S., with her spending restricted and collectors hounding her. She fled the country to escape. It felt like karma. The only difference was that in my last life, the collectors never gave me the chance to escape. Compared to what I went through, she was lucky to get away. I thought I would never see her again, but then I received a text from a new number. Leo had acute myeloid leukemia. He needed a hematopoietic stem cell transplant. Claire wasn't a match. The child was innocent. I booked the next flight to Los Angeles to get tested. Leo was lying in a hospital bed, his face pale, his small arms covered in needle marks. It was a pitiful sight. When he saw me, he asked Claire in a tiny voice, "Mommy, is that my daddy?" He was my son. A lump formed in my throat, and my voice trembled. "Leo, Daddy's here." The little boy looked at me and started to cry. I stroked his head, comforting him. "It's okay, Leo. Don't be scared. Everything's going to be okay. You'll be home soon." The test results came back. I was a match. I successfully donated my stem cells to Leo. Claire thanked me over and over. "Ethan, thank you. Leo is my life." I looked at her. She was barely in her 30s, but life had worn away all traces of the privileged young woman she used to be. It must be hard, surviving in LA. She avoided my gaze, changing her clothes. "You'll have to look after Leo for a bit. I have a performance tonight. I have to go." Neither of us could have ever imagined that our lives would diverge so dramatically. My assistant called. "Mr. Hayes, the old Thompson family home and the house you and Ms. Thompson lived in are both up for auction. Do you have any instructions?" "Buy them. Have them cleaned up. I'll be back in a while. And don't change any of the furniture or decor." In his sleep, Leo murmured my name. "Daddy, Daddy." I thought to myself that Claire's suffering was partly her own doing, but Leo was just a child. He didn't deserve to be dragged through her chaotic life. Leo's condition stabilized enough that he could return to the U.S. for continued treatment. Claire was packing my suitcase, getting ready to see me off. "Ethan, the money you sent." I received it all. I was holding Leo and didn't say anything. She continued, "The building that's in Leo's name is still there. If you want, you can take him back with you." To her credit, Claire was a responsible mother. Even in her current state, she hadn't thought of abandoning her child. Human nature is complex. She could throw away her family for a romance, but when she was broke and desperate, she never touched the asset in her son's name. Perhaps I was only now beginning to understand the saying, "A woman is soft, but a mother is strong." Fearing I would refuse, she promised, "He'll have a better life with you. I won't bother you." "And you?" I asked. She seemed taken aback. "What?" "I take Leo back home." "What will you do?" "Keep dancing here. It's fine here. I can." "Claire, come home with us. I bought the old Thompson house. You and Leo can live there." It was the first time I called her Claire in almost 2 years. I couldn't quite place the feeling. Maybe it was because my memory of her was always of someone bright and untouchable, and I couldn't stand to see her ground into the dust. In the end, Claire came back with me, bringing Leo home. When she opened the door to the old family mansion, she stood there for a long moment and cried silently, overwhelmed by how much had changed. "See what you need, and I'll have someone bring it over. I'll be there for all of Leo's follow-up treatments." "Okay," she whispered. Claire had become quiet and reserved, a shadow of her former self. I didn't say anything more. This was all I could do for her now. The hurt from the past was still there. Pity couldn't erase it. We would never go back to the way we were. The only reason we could maintain this civility was because of Leo. I am just a father who wants what's best for his child, and by extension, for his child's mother to not be miserable. That's all. In the torrent of our times, I seized an opportunity and steered my startup onto a stable path. Now, as things return to normal, my focus must be on finding the next opportunity, the next new road. As for love and romance, Those are fleeting clouds. I'll just let them be.